Zelensky. If China allies itself with Russia, there will be world war.
Here's a summary of the article.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned China in a newspaper interview on Monday against supporting Russia in its war on Ukraine and said doing so would bring on a world war. Zelensky's comments came as China said that the United States was in no position to make demands, after the top U.S. diplomat warned his Chinese counterpart at the weekend against China providing weapons to Russia in its war in Ukraine. For us, it is important that China does not support the Russian Federation in this war, Zelensky told German daily Die Welt. But I do see an opportunity for China to make a pragmatic assessment of what is happening here, he added. Because if China allies itself with Russia, there will be a world war, and I do think that China is aware of that. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on Saturday warned top Chinese diplomat Wang Yi of consequences should China provide material support to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, saying in an interview after the two met that Washington was concerned Beijing was considering supplying weapons to Moscow. Turning to Moldova, Zelensky told Die Welt that Ukraine had passed on to Moldovan President Maia Sandu intelligence suggesting that Russia was plotting a coup in Moldova.
This post received a score of 37,000, with an upvote ratio of 84%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
The Wang guy is in Moscow now according to China.
They won't ally with Russia, watch it. Russia is way too irrelevant economically for China to implode their own welfare in Russia's name.
Russia is nowhere near the threat the USSR was, and while China has been building up economically and militarily, it's practically surrounded by US allies, something they definitely don't appreciate, especially now that they're by many accounts a near peer to the US. China wants what Russia is selling. A world where the US needs to come to the negotiating table with China, and negotiate not from a position of strength as the de facto ruling hegemon, but as a peer. Slice up the world into spheres of influence again, and go back to the status quo ante the fall of the USSR, except now with a far more economically open China in its place. For them, there's also a bit of a Taiwan ideology going on that gives them a good reason to give with one hand and take with the other. Taiwan is China, and territorial integrity is paramount for China, so they're using that to support Ukraine's sovereignty. China does not want any credibility to be given to Taiwan's separatism.
Just as a clarification, the separatist movements in Donbas and Crimea were Russian-funded and garnered minimal support among the population. While Russia uses this as justification, it's important that we do not fall into that line of reasoning.
The fighters in Donbass mostly consisted of actual soldiers of the Russian Federation masquerading as separatists. But that's not Op's point. They're just pointing out that the separatist narrative is problematic to China because of the bad parallels to Taiwan.
Same technique Hitler and many other rulers used to justify war. In Austria, Hitler said, "They want to be a part of us." In Czechoslovakia, he said, "There's a bunch of Germans living there and the Czechs are treating them badly and we can't let that keep happening." In Poland, he said, "They won't agree to the terrible offers I'm giving them to give me land. Also they're torturing Germans in Poland, we won't let it go on." Pretty much none of it was true.
Even US troops were promised to be greeted as liberators before the invasions of both Iraq and Afghanistan. It's a very common refrain.
Always be wary of when world leaders talk about how easy some military operation is supposed to be. 99% of the time it's a mixture of BS propaganda and wishful thinking.
But the mission was accomplished May 1, 2003. All U.S. soldiers were pulled out of the Middle East right after.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.